straight up the front, I'll let you know that we're not an NDIS provider. What we are is actually, we're a national strategic alliance. So you'll see on the slide there that we have 14 member organisations across Australia. You're probably quite familiar with some of the names that you see here. So that's who Ability First Australia is. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is our YPIRAC Systems Coordinator program. So this is a program that is funded by the Federal Health Department, and it's in regards to the YPIRAC targets and the YPIRAC strategy. So if we just jump to the next slide, you will all probably be familiar with the YPIRAC targets. And what we are doing is we are a national program, and we are tasked with looking at people that are under 65, either living in permanent residential aged care or at risk of going to permanent residential aged care, that aren't on the end. That's really important. So as we know, in Queensland, there's around about 700, 750 people who are in residential aged care. And of that number, there's probably around about 10 to 15% of people that aren't on the NDIS. So what we do is every month we get a data drop from Federal Health and then also from the NDIS, showing us all the people across Australia that are in residential aged care. And then next to that, we also get, I guess, their NDIS status to let us know, okay, who should we be working on and going out to visit. And what we do is we actually go out, we visit with the younger person or their family members in the residential aged care facility and talk to them about, look, we can see you're not on the NDIS. Is it something that you want to explore? Have you possibly tried it before and maybe you got access not met? Are you happy where you are? Would you like to look at other options for living? Or perhaps is there other services that we could connect you in with that you could have while you're living in residential aged care? So that's underway at the moment. That's been our primary focus of what we're doing. And alongside of that, very exciting to have this is we have a report. So we're actually reporting on the barriers that are facing these people under 65 that are living in residential aged care. You know, how they got there, why, for example, they never looked at the NDIS, or did they, and they weren't able to get on, and different things like that. So that's really interesting. If we just go to the next slide, as I said, I look after Queensland and Northern Territory, but we are a national program, so we're all across Australia, and each one of the younger people that we visit that wants to be part of our program, they're actually assigned a systems coordinator, so probably very similar to like a support coordinator would work for someone who's an NDIS participant. And it's a free program. Their systems coordinator is their single point of contact, and we just try to help them navigate all the different service systems that they're engaged with in their life. And we also have that research project that goes alongside of that program. If we just go to the next slide, you'll see in Queensland, we've got the 4 systems coordinators, but we've got that presence all across Australia as well. So happy to be contacted by any of your colleagues across Australia, and I can put you in contact with the right people for different states as well. If we just jump to the next slide. So that's cohort 1 that I'm just been talking to you about. That's the people that are currently in residential aged care and under the age of 65, and that's really where we spent most of our time at the moment, and our work has been. What I'm really excited to talk to you about as well, though, is this kind of next phase of our work. So if you just jump to the next slide, um, it's around, I suppose, the hospital and the community space. So looking at trying to divert people that are under 65 from ever kind of getting into that pathway of needing to, be assessed to go to residential aged care. So we're just starting this work, and it's really new, and we're finding our feet in the space and finding out how we can best fit in with the processes that are already in train. And what we're trying to do is work really early if we can with people that are in this pathway that aren't NDIS participants. So you're probably thinking, well, who would they be? So that they'd be obviously your non-residents, for example, or for example, we have a lot of people that it's more of a health related issue and maybe they've tried a couple of times to get access met for the NDIS, but they haven't been able to. So we're really working with these people if we can kind of in the hospital system before that conversation gets to the pointy end of going to ACAT and seeing if we can help them explore different possibilities, maybe more age appropriate possibilities for them and see what else is out there and have those conversations early. So that's really working as collaboratively as possible with the systems that are already in play and the people that are already in play, obviously in the hospital space and the community space. So it's really exciting. It's really new. So I'd love to be able to come back and give you kind of more information about that as we keep learning more about this second kind of cohort of people. If we just jump to the next slide, um, in this information that I've just described in this hospital space and the community space, there's this little bit of a change, I suppose you could say, in relation to the YPIRAC targets. So you'll remember that I think the first YPIRAC target is no one under 45 entering residential aged care by 2022. And as a part of that, what is going to happen, and it's kind of happening now in some states, is that we're going to, before an ACAT assessment would even happen, we're trying to divert that person that's not NDIS to try to really explore those options, those age appropriate options for support and for accommodation if that's what's needed, and really pull out all the stops to try to find a different way. But look, I'm under no illusion here that often there is that gap between um, you know what's available and where these people sit. So if we aren't able to I guess find an appropriate age appropriate solution and divert them from residential aged care, we actually follow them through, and we stay with them as their systems coordinator even when they go through into aged care, and we keep trying to find some other solution for them if that's what they would like us to do. So we continue on as I suppose their case manager in that role. The other really kind of exciting and new part of this as well is if a person is under 50 years old and they're not an NDIS participant, but they look like they're going to need to go through for residential aged care, there's going to be a panel that sits up for all of Australia, and anyone that's under 50 that's not able to find an age appropriate solution, that panel's actually going to look at their case and hopefully collaborate, work together, and see if they can come up with something other than residential aged care. So we haven't tested that one yet. That's all very new. But yes, watch this space, and hopefully we'll be able to come back and let you know how that all works out in practice. If we just go to the next slide. So I've talked a lot, as you can see, about non-NDIS, because that's really the people that we're working with. But look, if I just wanted to let you know, if you had a question about someone that is an NDIS participant, we've got a no wrong door policy, and if you just wanted to ring up and have a chat, or ring up Ashleigh and have a chat, you know, and we could see if we could put you in contact with the right person, more than happy to do that, or just to have a chat and see what we can help you with, if that's something that you're interested in as well. If we just go to the next slide, these are my details. Please, like Ashleigh was saying before, feel free to reach out, any questions, queries, anything I can do to help out with. We're happy to do it. So yes, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for that, Debbie. So I'll now just touch on SDA, so Specialist Disability Accommodation. Won't be going into full and comprehensive detail about SDA. So if SDA is something that anyone here is interested in finding out more information on, please do get in touch with me. Happy to you know, get on a private phone call or webinar to discuss further. But obviously there's a big push to ultimately move young people, so anyone under the age of 65, out of that residential aged care setting and into more appropriate housing. I guess initially there weren't always appropriate housing solutions for some of those people, but now SDA is something that's available in Queensland, and so there is now that appropriate housing solution. So it's just good to know, you know, not necessarily every time, but in a lot of situations, if you have got someone on your caseload under the age of 65, and if they are living in residential aged care, a lot of the time they will be eligible for SDA. So yeah, just if you want to chat further about it, welcome to give me a call. There is also a huge drive for investment in SDA as well. So for people to be out building more and more of these accessible housing options. So when we're talking about SDA, we really are referring to the bricks and mortar, so the physical house itself, not the supports provided in that house. For us, we're an SDA provider. We're not a SIL provider, so we don't have teams out in the properties providing supports to our tenants. For that, we have different SIL providers who come in and provide those supports. We're primarily just building appropriate SDA housing. So it's housing designed for people with extreme functional impairments and or very high support needs. So there's sort of the two assessment criteria to determine eligibility. It's good to point out as well that it's a very niche market. Out of all NDIS participants, they expect that only about 6% of people will be eligible for this sort of housing. With SDA compliant homes, they're uniquely designed with features and fixtures that enhance independent living. So all SDA houses have to be enrolled and certified through the NDIS to be listed as an SDA house. If anyone's interested in exploring those features more and understanding what you would find in these houses, get in touch with me. Open to you know, doing viewings of our properties to walk through and show people. So in terms of the categories of SDA, there are different SDA categories that someone may be approved for. When we look at basic, that really is being phased out. So we are primarily looking at improved livability, fully accessible, robust, and high physical support. As a provider for us personally, we have been building high physical support SDA properties. But we can also look at accepting other tiers of SDA funding as well. Again, get in touch if you want to discuss that further. We have included a bit of a roadmap to SDA. In some of our webinars, we do explore this roadmap further and go into step-by-step details of what it looks like. But just as an overview, basically you're starting off with identifying that housing goal. Then you would be completing and submitting a request for home and living supports form to gain funding to explore housing options, and then developing a housing plan. You'd be working really closely with an OT, particularly OTs who have experience in SDA report writing, who would assess SDA eligibility and gather all the reports and evidence to submit the SDA application. You're then waiting for a decision by the panel, and once you've got that outcome, which can sometimes take quite some time, once you've got that outcome, you can then start looking for housing, primarily through GoNest, Housing Hub websites. There is the SDA Finder as well on the NDIS website. Now that will only show you properties that are already completed with construction and already enrolled and certified as SDA. Housing Hub and GoNest will sometimes show you properties that may still be under construction. So that's just good to know. Relating it back to young people in residential aged care as well, we do have an example at the Sunshine Coast. We've got an SDA property where it's a 4-bedroom, so we've still got one last bedroom to fill, but all 3 residents who are lined up to move in are all actually transitioning from residential aged care. So it's really great for them. They're really excited. 2 of them have actually just moved in, and we're just waiting for that final person to move in. It's been a lengthy process just with getting funding approved, particularly getting the roster of care approved. But we're sort of finally at that point where the residents have been able to start moving in, which is really great. And now they're in a space where they still get to socialise, but they do still get some of their own time as well and get their 24/7 supports as well. So our contact details are listed here. In my team, it's primarily me and myself and my colleague Angie, and our details are obviously listed here. So again, get in touch if you do want to reach out. But yeah, really, if you do have any questions for either Debbie, myself, please feel free to take yourself off mute. Otherwise, after the webinar, get in touch with either of us. So did anyone have any questions for Debbie or myself?
Hi there, my name's Tabitha. I just had a little quick question around for Ashleigh around SDA. If I have a client that's been approved for high physical support, but he's been looking at some robust properties, is there a hard and fast rule about that, or is it about seeing if the property is suitable or not? How does that work?
Tabitha, it might be good for me to get in touch with you afterwards just to really find out probably a little bit more about this particular situation. So if someone's so for us, if we build high physical support, and yes, we can sometimes look at accepting fully accessible funding and improved livability funding. When it comes to robust, that is something that if someone is funded for robust, we wouldn't be able to accept. Obviously in your situation, they're funded for high physical support, but may sound like it might also sort of fall into that robust category. So yeah, it's probably a situation where I need to find out a little bit more information and then sort of help. So would you mind if maybe I got in touch with you afterwards just to sort of find out a little bit more information and have a chat?
Yeah, that's fine. I might send you a quick email perhaps with my contact details.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Thanks, Tabitha. Did anyone else have any questions?
Hi there, Steve here, and apologies, I joined a couple of minutes late, so I may have missed a little bit of what you were talking about, Debbie. I'm really interested in this space and wanting to see what the best way of us as a provider is of linking in with those like you who are getting in contact with people who are stuck in residential aged care and looking for options. Is the program, is the Ability First program around referring to other providers, or are you always going to be the sole provider for those young people moving out?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve, for your question. That's a really good point to talk about. So we're not an NDIS provider of any kind. And we deal with the people that are not NDIS participants. We look at, I suppose, everyone under 65 that's living in residential aged care, and then we get data from federal health and from the NDIS so that we're able to filter down and see who's not on the NDIS, and then we actually go out, visit with them and have a chat to them about their options. One of those might be, do we help them try to get access to the NDIS, and then if they're successful, then that's where we kind of step back and they work, I suppose, is it the YPIRAC planner and that kind of work all takes off there. So yeah, sorry about that. We don't do any of the NDIS side of things.
No worries. Thanks for the clarification, Deb.
All right, everyone, the webinar, we've got a couple minutes left, so we probably have time for one more quick question if anyone has one. Otherwise, we will end the webinar. So if there's anyone else for a question, you're welcome to quickly ask that.
Debbie, it's Rachel here I'm from NISQ in Queensland. So we work with people who've had catastrophic injuries. The gap that I find that I'm wondering if you would be able to help with is when we have participants in hospital who aren't NDIS, but they're looking for sort of private rental accommodation or being able to be with their families or extended families. Sometimes they have perhaps CTP insurance as well. So it's very difficult for us sometimes to work with a hospital when they don't come under any particular funding bracket for housing. Is that something that you would be able to assist with?
Absolutely, and I'd love to have a chat to you around that and see where, we could collaborate, not stepping on any toes, but if we've got some information that might, would love to.
Okay, that'll be great. I'll get in touch with you. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for coming along this morning. Again, if there are any further questions that anyone would like to chat about, these slides will be sent to you. So you'll have all of Debbie's details, all of my personal details. So you're welcome to give either of us a call or send an email through. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashleigh.
Thank you.
Oh, Debbie, you're still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Let me stop recording.